Well, good morning, Faith family. I hope you find yourself in a peaceful place, because today our Remembrance Day service is about not just remembering, but about remembering the call of our faith to be agents and live lives of peace. Peace is such an rare commodity in a very turbulent time. We can think of the elections in the United States as being this time of profound discomfort. But let us never forget that from Scripture times and beyond the times that the Scriptures are written, the human lived experience has always had ups and downs, ebbs and flows. In our next service, we're going to talk about, the myth around peace and the harmful theology of those who say that belief in God will bring success and peace and stability, and kind of treat God like a genie in the sky, that if you're just good enough and you say the right words, you're going to get everything you want. Well, of course, that isn't anybody's lived experience. And if you have those moments, well, of course, we've had prayers answered. But there's something profound, and there's something that the church can say to ourselves and to the world at large about the power that can be found in areas that humans think is only tragedy, is only sadness, is something to be avoided. So on this day, November 8th, we are going to lament war. We are going to talk about the Christian ideals, again, about dying and living. We talk about living and dying, but this morning I want to talk about dying and living. And to do that, there's a profound awareness within me that my lived experience doesn't give me a lot of personal wisdom from which to draw. And I'm leaning a lot on the shared experiences of you, my brothers and sisters of Westover and Mountsburg. And, beep, boop, beep, boop. Sorry, if you didn't hear that, I'm not just going crazy. There's laundry just finished on the back end there. What I want to focus on this morning is, and I want to reiterate this. I've said this in times before, and this may seem a bit strange to hear from your pastor, but there's a couple things I want to accomplish in this welcome right now, and then, of course, in a reflection a little bit later on in the service. As we do talk about this Remembrance Day, as we do lament and remember those who've given the ultimate sacrifice of their life in defense of the rights of our nations and the rights of other people, I also want us to have the space to lament the lack of peace, the necessity and the reality, I guess it would be a better way of saying it, of war. But as your pastor, I want to start this off by saying something maybe a little bit concerning, but you've heard me say this before. It's how I've operated as your pastor from the get-go, so this is nothing new. But I'm very aware of the theological, the faith understandings, the diversity of it within these two communities. And I want you to hear that I don't really care what you believe. That sounds awful, but let me quantify this for a second. It's not my job to make sure that you intellectually assent to the things that I think you should intellectually assent to. But what I am in charge of is what you hear, and that I take seriously. I want to make sure that I'm offering, granted, my interpretation of the gospel, but not just my interpretation, what I believe the gospel is saying to each one of us. So please, as we go into the reflection, as we talk about this day and all the various ways in which we can and must reflect upon war and the failings of humanity and man's inhumanity to man, that sort of stuff, understand that I'm not trying to convince you of anything, but I am trying to speak what I believe is gospel encouragement into all facets and all elements of life. And today is November 8th. And while officially we talk about Remembrance Day being on November 11th, and while we always do the Sunday closest to November 11th, November 8th actually is a Remembrance Day. It's a Remembrance Day for all the Indigenous soldiers that gave their lives in the 2 world wars of Canada. So as part of our welcome this morning, I want you to take a few moments now and just watch this video. Remember that the Indigenous people that live in our lands have also given of themselves to serve Canada as a country. When we know in a time when the relationships between Indigenous people and the Canadian settlers are very fractured, are very interfaced, and for some ways need to be so. But this, November 8th, is Indigenous Remembrance Day. So let's take a moment to look at that now. All right, Faith family, welcome to our Remembrance Day service. Today we lift up and remember those in our community that are also suffering. I want to especially lift up the Pittons family right now as they enter into a profound season of grief. If you don't know who the Pittons are, doesn't matter. Just please lift them up in prayer. And just a reminder and a correction, actually, I had Frank's surgery down for November 16th. It's actually November 19th, so let's keep lifting up in prayer as well. And just take some time now and some silence and just look at the names that are listed there, your brothers and sisters in the faith who need your prayers right now. All right, I pray that the music and the prayers and the scripture readings enlighten you and bring you some joy and, most importantly, some peace on this, our Remembrance Day service. God bless. Let's dig in.